Should Starmer ask Macron to give the UK back the millions we've sent France to stop the Channel migrants, because they haven't done it? We're taking your calls on this 0207 862 2222. The French President Emmanuel Macron is heading to the UK today and will be welcomed by the royal family for a state banquet this evening. Emmanuel and his wife Brigitte will be here for 3 days to mark the first state visit by a European leader since Brexit. During the visit, he will spend time with Keir Starmer, of course, and Starmer will apparently be discussing ways to stop illegal migration and small boats and all of that usual stuff. And one of the things the Tories want Starmer to say is, why have we paid France all this money and we haven't got the results we want? So let's just have a look over here and see if we can illustrate this. If you look at this boat full of migrants here, there is a question in the background which is about the French police. And this will seem a bit rude, but bear with me. Why won't the French get their feet wet? And before you say, oh, Jeremy, that's a bit coarse as a question, it's actually not my question. It's the headline in the Daily Mail today. Time for French to get their feet wet, because at the moment they don't really intervene. Two reasons behind the headline. Number one, let's have a look. These are the figures, the money we've given to France. 10 years ago, 15 million. Then 2015, 46 million. 16, 17 million, 36 million. At this point, it starts becoming a small boats issue from there on. Before that, it was really vans and trucks. So it starts to go up around 2021, 54. Then 2 years ago, 62 million. Then we're giving more than 100 million. And then this year, 180 million we're giving to the French. So the total, the Tories say, 771 million. And we've seen, even since Labour came to power, 44,000 small boat migrants crossing the Channel. And that's 21,000 since the start of 2025. So that's why people are really cross. That's why they're saying they want the money back. And the second reason for the slightly rude question is this. This is a brilliant reporter called Andrew Harding, works for the BBC. And he went to the beach and he saw these catastrophically overloaded dinghies and the French police doing nothing. And he tried to find out why they weren't doing anything. And they say they're not allowed to go in the water unless they see people drowning. Now, that rule may have been varied, but at the time it looked ridiculous because obviously they are in danger of drowning once they disappear off over the horizon on their way to the UK. But even despite these scenes, the French police were not intervening. And that's where the British government starts to think this is crazy. And of course, part of the reason may be that it gets the migrants off French hands and makes them our problem. But have a look at the numbers. These are individual years. So 2019, 592 by this time in 2019. 2021 July, 6,000. 2023, 11,000. 2022, 12,000. Last year, 13,500. This year, 21,000. So this year, the number, you can see, it's just gone absolutely crazy. And people get so cross about it, Nina. And maybe we say to the French, you haven't lifted a finger here.
Well, it's never going to happen in terms of getting the money back. In any divorce settlement, with money's involved, people don't go back and say, well, I want the money back now. It doesn't happen like that. We underestimate the power of soft power, i.e. the royal family, and the very fact that Macron is arriving today with Brigitte, let's not talk about Le Slap.
Well, I was thinking I literally was thinking I won't mention it.
No,
now you've mentioned it.
I've got it out of the way.
Okay.
Okay, right. So we'll move on from that now.
Okay.
But the fact that there's this great pomp and ceremony and 3 days of festivities and then a summit where they're going to be discussing all of this and hoping to make an announcement about new measures. Firstly, the business of them standing on the French police standing on the beach and not going. They are not allowed by law to go in. And
they started stabbing the boats a bit.
Well, that's the first time we've seen them
yes.
do that. But the law is about to change.
Well, I mean, the law says you can't go in unless they're drowning.
Yeah.
And clearly they were in danger. That's the point, Ron, isn't it? They were in danger of drowning, those migrants.
Well, I mean, first of all, illegal migrants should not be allowed on the shores. If you're breaking the law in order to get into the country in the first place, and we're a law-abiding country, therefore you're against everything that Britain stands for. So I don't think they should be even allowed to get on those boats.
So
and didn't Keir Starmer say he's going to smash the gangs?
No. Yes, but when you're saying they shouldn't be allowed, how do you stop them?
Well, you push them back, do you?
Well, how do you stop? Yeah, well, how do you stop them? Well, firstly, the smash the gangs phrase that Keir Starmer used, I haven't seen that being
We don't know
employed
what's
yet.
going on behind the scenes.
Well,
Because what's culminating in this French visit this week has been worked on by Yvette Cooper to great effect, apparently.
Well, really?
Yeah.
I mean, all I'm doing is looking at the numbers.
That's coming through. Sorry,
Well,
it's
you
not-
stop them. You stop them first by doing what that lovely police officer did on the shores of France, and he put a little penknife through the dinghy.
But they weren't allowed to do. They are physically not allowed to do.
Why
that by
not?
law.
Why
because
not?
It's French law. They are not allowed to do.
But we
it.
paid
And
the French.
That's never mind what you pay. That's a French law. It's about to change.
Let's go to Brian in Norfolk. Brian in Norfolk, hi.
Hello, Jeremy.
Those figures are quite amazing on the graphic, aren't they?
To be honest with you, I think the French should be paying every time an illegal immigrant land here from France.
So you'd say to France, right, we're going to fine you, what, 20 grand or something?
That's right, each
20 grand each.
person come in 20,000 quid, yeah? And that way, we will also get ourselves out of the muddle, but like everything else, the law come into it, the human rights come into it, and everything else, they should abolish all that and say, right, what we say goes. And the French will then have to take notice. They seem to want to run everything else. So
Well, but I mean, there are reasons, if you're French, why you are happy for these migrants to leave your country, because it's the reverse of the reason why we're not happy to have them arriving.
Exactly. So why should we have to take them? I'm sorry.
Well,
they come to France. France should do
Ron,
something.
let Ron come in, Brian.
I completely agree with you, Brian. I completely agree with you, because what Nina was saying was that it was the French law that stops them from stopping the migrants getting onto those boats. But what about the British law? The British law says you shouldn't be breaking our laws. So they are actually intervening with our laws whilst we're allowing them to...
Well, then you push them away,
They're
or...?
not intervening in our laws. They're in French waters and French territory, and then French law applies. It's nothing to do
But
with
when they
British
arrive
law.
here, Ron's
Then
point
our
is
laws apply when they arrive here.
Yes, but the thing is...
Is it illegal to drift up to Britain and walk onto the beach? No.
It's actually not in terms of international refugee status. That is not illegal.
Is that true?
I think I understand. That's what I understand, and somebody can maybe correct me, but that's what I understand.
If you
turn up on our shore as a refugee,
If you are a refugee, yeah.
well, okay, we
Not
don't.
an
If you're a
economic
refugee,
migrant.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because I arrived here as a refugee, as an asylum seeker, to live with my dad. I came through the legal route, and there are many thousands of people who come through the legal route. What this is about illegal crossing.
I understand that, but the thing is that there is nowhere in Europe or in the countries where these people are coming from where they can go and apply legally to.
But they are
get
in
status.
France. France is safe.
They're in France.
Yes, but then they are, by international refugees, they are allowed to move through a country to go to the country they want to.
This is the bit I don't get, because if I'm escaping a house fire, I don't run to the next house that's not on fire and keep running. Once I'm out of the fire, I stop running.
Yes, but
I just don't understand
there
it.
are reasons why they come here. There are many negative
well-
reasons, but also they have family. They speak English. There are
All right,
are
okay.
You
reasons,
can speak
there are
English in
valid
France,
reasons.
Jeremy. You can speak English in Germany. I've just come back from Germany, where everyone spoke English there too, as well as Deutschland. So let's not put out those excuses.
Let's
for them.
pause.
These
Let's
are
pause.
law
I promise we're
breakers.
not stopping.
These are law breakers.
We'll take a break and come back with more calls and more comments from Ron and Nina. Should Keir Starmer say to Macron, "You're going to have to pay some of this money back because you've done nothing"? Now, more of your calls on getting a refund from France for the millions we've given them to stop the Channel migrants. I'm worried I interrupted you earlier, Ron. You were saying we need to basically defend our shores.
Yes, I was saying about our laws. You know, we're a country of law, and therefore anyone that comes in and the first position, the first start in life on Britain is to break the law, I think that should not be a good start. I think what Kemi Badenoch said recently, back in February, is that people who break the laws to come into this country should not be allowed to stay in this country, and I do support that.
Jed in Manchester, hi. Hey, Jed.
Yes, I'm here.
Well done. Do you agree with Ron?
Well, he's got his facts wrong anyway, let's put it that way. They're not breaking the law when they land here. But apart from that, it's what we voted for when we came out of the EU. When a migrant enters the EU, they're allowed to claim asylum in any of the countries within the EU. Once they get turned down for asylum there, they cannot apply for asylum in any other country in the EU. So where's the obvious place they're going to go next? The UK. Because we're not in the EU.
But logically, it doesn't make any sense. If we left the EU, so we don't have to take asylum seekers who arrive in other EU countries.
Yeah, exactly. Legally, we don't have to. But what are they going to do? They're going to head for the UK because we can't send them back again like we could when we were in the EU.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's what we voted for.
Yeah. There we are, Nina. It's what we voted for.
Absolutely. And there used to be something called the Dublin Agreement, which meant that you could send them back. And obviously we came out. And Brexit really changed...
You don't agree, Ron?
Absolutely not. I mean, the illegal migration, as you saw in the graphs earlier, that started, with firstly lorries, and then once the lorries stopped, it started becoming small boats, and they've been going up and up and up and up, all the way up until before Brexit. Okay. And even after that, in 2019, they were still going up.
2019, how many people arrived on boats in 2019?
Oh, thousands.
No, 1,800.
The whole year.
And what was so the difference is Brexit. Brexit made a huge difference. It's supposed to be take back control, and it was open the gates wide.
No.
Boris Johnson, successive Tory prime ministers have totally.
All right. Let's see if Ian in Somerset. Do you agree this is Brexit?
Hello.
Hello, Ian.
Good morning to you. I got an answer to the illegal immigrants. Why don't we, instead of sending them, or possibly to Rwanda, why don't we send them to an island in Scotland where we can put a load of money in to make migrant camps, short-term, long-term, because of global warming, there's a lot of policy makers who now go to France, southern Europe, etc. There's lovely loads of white sand up in Scotland where they can enjoy a holiday then later on.
But where would you put a doctor on this island?
Well, you send them over. Send them over. They already got doctors there.
Yeah, I don't know. Put him on a Scottish island. And Ron, you answer.
Well, firstly, you cannot make excuses for people breaking the law, and I think you can't blame
a refugee is allowed to ask for refuge.
Yes, but
it's part of international law.
A refugee is not breaking the law.
But
they
might be economic
people crossing
migrants.
The boats.
But you don't know they may or may not be economic migrants. They may or may not be refugees.
My point. I disagree completely, because my point here isn't about refugees. It's about people breaking the law to get into this country.
The thing is, it is not breaking international law to seek refuge.
That's not. You can seek refuge, as my dad did in 1989, from Kenya. He took a flight from Kenya to London and sought refuge. Did not break the law. He then applied for the indefinite leave to remain. He then sent for me in 1993. The legal route works, and it still works to this day.
He had a route to come. He had a means of applying.
And those routes are still there.
No, the routes
yes,
are
they
not.
are.
They are not there. Where can someone from Afghanistan apply for British asylum?
There are 20,000 Afghanistans who are allowed to come into this country at the end of the war. So you actually answered your own question there.
And what about
Ukraine?
So Syria.
Ukraine? Yeah, Syria, we had
Afghanistan
16,000.
Are the two, and Hong Kong
as well. We had Syrians. We've had Syrians. It's not about numbers. It's about
there isn't a route. There isn't a way of applying.
There isn't a way.
Could you not go to the embassy in Kabul and apply?
No, you can't. You cannot do that. You absolutely cannot. You would imagine there would be a route.
You can.
But you can't.
OK.
You can.
Roy's in Wolverhampton. Roy, what do you think? Let's get back to the thing we're discussing here, which is whether we should say to Macron very politely, I'm sorry, we would like our money back.
We are not going to get a franc of that money back. So why don't we just send these immigrants back? All we've got to do is march them straight down to the cross-channel ferries and put them on it and send them back. And if they won't accept them, then they're stopping their docks. They'll have to feed them in the end. They might not be breaking the law, Nina, but they're breaking our hearts. The poor people can't get to see a doctor. Have you ever sat all night with a toothache because you can't get a dentist? You know,
to be completely clear about this, Roy, the fact that you have toothache and can't see a dentist or you can't see a doctor is hardly down to migrants coming across on boats.
Oh, he's being sympathetic, though.
It's not coming down to migrants on boats. It's coming down to the 14 years of Tory misrule, which has totally screwed up the NHS, totally screwed up the dental system, and all our infrastructure, has raped and pillaged all our institutions, and we've been left with this mess that Labour are struggling to sort out.
All right.
Absolutely.
We're going a little bit wide of the market.
We definitely.
Yeah, well, Ron, you can
blaming
respond to your
somebody
part.
is blaming our government, our former government, the Conservative government,
blame Margaret
than
Thatcher.
blaming the criminals who are making Roy's life a
Okay,
misery.
guys, wait. Let's just get another call.
like to
Thank you,
blame
Roy.
Margaret Thatcher.
You want to blame Margaret? We're on something else.
Blaming
She literally died 15 years ago.
Margaret Thatcher sold off the council houses and did not replace them.
She is not blaming the criminals.
And so therefore that started the whole trend of lack of housing.
Okay, all right.
You cannot blame it on 20,000 people coming on a boat.
The better
Blaming
things
somebody
are
else.
in this country, the more people are going to want to come here. So it's arguing that the country's in a terrible state and therefore it would suggest they don't want to come. They do want to come. If you make the country better, more people want to come. And you're in Devon. Hello. Well, listen, does France owe us this money? Should we be asking for it back?
Well, can I just say, first of all, I think it would be wiser to spend it on the international aid budget, because my point is going to be, if we don't help to make these countries that they're fleeing from better, they will continue to come. And a lot of the reason they're in such a state is our foreign policy for decades that has joined America in bombing the hell out of them. I'm talking now Syria, Libya. We've got
Iran,
failed states all over that
Iraq,
part of the world.
Yeah.
Right? And to say
but we
that
can't,
they
Anya, sorry, we haven't got any money to make the whole
What do you mean?
the rest of the world a better place. We haven't got the
that's
kind of
just
money.
not true, Jeremy. We could decide. It's all political
We can't even
choices.
run a rural bus service. How are we
hang on a
going to
minute.
heal Syria?
Just a minute. The point I'm trying to make here is that these people that come over in the boats, everybody says, oh, they're economic migrants, there's loads of men, blah, blah, blah. They don't understand the culture there, where these families save up to send their oldest son, because that's all they can afford to do.
Okay,
Right?
fair enough.
The other thing is, we should be putting more money into applications going through much faster. That way, those who really had no right to be here would be returned in a safe and quick manner, rather than sitting in hotels languishing. Now, I can blame the last Tory government for that, because they were in 14 years.
What about the idea from Ron, which is that you've just got to start to push these boats back from towards where they came
But then
from?
we're pushing, the whole point I'm trying to make here, Jeremy, is that to say they've got to be to the first country, you were making an example of the fire and running to the next safe house, then they'd all be in the same place on mainland Europe, because we're an island. They cannot flee to here unless they come by plane or boat all the way. I mean...
And you let Ron come in.
Anya, actually, I agree with what you're saying here, because if we use our soft power and improve the livelihoods of places like where migrants are coming from, then yes, we could reduce that as an incentive. But the most important thing, I think, is to show that we're Britain, that Britain will always act against criminals. And at the moment, we're not acting against criminals.